The Nairobi Senator Edwin Sifuna has released an evening message that has raised emotions in Kenya. Welcome to Kenya Lens Media, where we give you news updates as they break. And kindly, if you are new here, consider subscribing. The Nairobi Senator Edwin Sifuna has expressed deep sorrow following the tragic dormitory fire at Utumishi Girls Academy in Gilgil that killed at least 16 students and injured dozens more. In an emotional message shared on his official X account on Thursday, May 28, 2026, the Senator acknowledged the overwhelming grief facing parents, teachers, and students affected by the disaster. The tragedy, which unfolded in the early hours of Thursday morning, has left the country mourning the loss of young lives and also once again raised painful concerns about student safety in boarding schools. The Nairobi Senator's message captured the mood of the shocked and grieving nation, and in his statement, Edwin Sifuna has said that moments such as the fire to Utumishi Girls Academy leave the many people without words. They acknowledged the deep pain being experienced by parents, teachers, and the students, while extending his sincere condolences to the affected families. His message quickly spread across social media platforms as Kenyans continued to react to one of the country's deadliest school tragedies in recent times. The fire broke out at the dormitory inside Utumishi Girls Academy in Gilgil, Nakuru County during early hours of Thursday morning. Within minutes, part of the building had been engulfed in flames. Emergency response teams were dispatched to the scene as frightened students rushed to the safety amid confusion and panic. By morning, the scale of the tragedy had begun to emerge, and Education Cabinet Secretary Julius Ogamba confirmed that 16 students had died in the inferno. 29 others were reported injured and also taken to various hospitals for treatment. Several survivors sustained burns and other injuries as emergency crews worked to evacuate students from the affected dormitory. The Kenya Red Cross later confirmed that at least 132 students had been affected by the fire. According to humanitarian agencies, several students were evacuated from the school and transported to different health facilities for urgent medical attention. As rescue operations continued throughout the day, scenes from the school painted a heartbreaking picture. Burnt sections of the dormitory stood in silence, twisted metal structures and blackened walls marked the areas where students had been sleeping only hours earlier. Scattered belongings lay among the debris as investigators and emergency teams combined and also combed through the scene. Outside hospitals and school compounds, parents waited anxiously for updates about their children. Some searched through hospital wards, hoping to locate missing loved ones. Others remained gathered outside emergency response centers, desperate for information as authorities worked to identify victims and also account for survivors. For many families, the uncertainty became painful ordeal of fear, shock, and grief. The tragedy has shaken communities across the country, and leaders from different sectors joined ordinary citizens to mourn the lives lost in the fire. Messages of condolence flooded social media as citizens expressed sorrow over the deaths of young students whose futures had been cut short. And the fire has also reopened painful memories of past dormitory tragedies in Kenyan schools. And over the years, several institutions have experienced deadly fires that exposed concerns over boarding school safety, emergency preparedness, and also infrastructure standards. Each incident has often triggered calls for stronger enforcement of safety regulations in learning institutions. Questions surrounding overcrowding, emergency exits, electoral systems, and fire response preparedness frequently return whenever such disasters occur. And at Utumishi Girls Academy, investigators are now expected to examine the circumstances surrounding the fire and determine what may have caused the blaze. Authorities have not yet released an official cause of the incident, and even as investigators continue, the immediate focus remains on treatment for the injured, support for survivors, and also comfort for grieving families. The Kenya Red Cross said it continues to provide psychological and psychosocial support and stressing services for affected students and relatives. That support is expected to play a major role in helping survivors cope with the emotional trauma left behind by the disaster. For many students who escaped the flames, the memories of the night are likely to remain painful for a long time. Some witnessed classmates trapped inside the burning dormitory. Others fled through smoke and confusion as rescue efforts unfolded in darkness. Mental health experts say traumatic events involving children often leave emotional scars that require long-term counseling and support. Teachers and school staff are also expected to face significant emotional strain in the aftermath of the tragedy, and schools are meant to be places of safety, learning, and hope. And for many parents, boarding schools represent trust. A trust that children will be protected as they pursue their education and future dreams. And that is why school fires carry such deep national pain. And behind every uniform in a child with ambitions, friendship, and family waiting at home, the deaths of 16 students have therefore touched the conscience of the nation. Throughout Thursday, emergency responders, medical workers, volunteers, and humanitarian agencies remained actively involved in the rescue and support operations. Ambulances moved injured students to hospitals while counselors comforted survivors and also grieving relatives. Security officers secured the school compound as investigations got underway, and government agencies also cautioned Kenyans against spreading unverified information online during the ongoing response efforts. Officials warned that misinformation could increase panic and also worsen the suffering of families already dealing with unimaginable grief. And as the country mourns, many Kenyans are once again calling for renewed attention to school safety measures. Parents, education stakeholders, and community leaders are expected to push for stronger inspections and improved emergency preparedness in boarding institutions. For families who lost loved ones, however, no policy discussion can erase the pain of the tragedy. Tonight, homes across Kenya are grieving young lives lost soon. Parents are comforting frightened children, students are mourning classmates and friends, and the nation is struggling to come to terms with another heartbreaking school disaster. The tragedy at Utumishi Girls Academy has become more than a news story. It is now a national moment of sorrow, a reminder of how fragile life can be, and painful call to protect the lives of entrusted to schools every single day. And as Kenya mourns the young lives lost at Utumishi Girls Academy, the nation is left with a painful truth that every child sent to school carries not only books and dreams, but the hopes of the entire family waiting for them to return home safely. That is all for today from Kenya Lens Media, where we bring in news updates as they break. And kindly, if you're new here, consider subscribing.